talking about my fourth advice is copy as much as you can, okay? Always citating who are you copying to, because as Jorge Luis Borges said, thank you very much for looking for the reference, there are only 4 stories. City of a city like Troy, a trip, the search for a treasure, and a sacrifice, okay? So everything has already been told. There are already a lot of TV shows, podcasts, books, blogs, etc. Okay, so if you like something, copy the idea and at least try to innovate. And you may say, okay, but innovation is very difficult. There are 3 ways of innovating. I'm going to tell you 3 stories. In 1958, a Catalan businessman took a caramel, put a stick on it, and created the lollipop, the chupa chups. It's a way of innovating. You take 2 things that already exist and you put them together. First way of innovation. In the elections, the ones of 2016, you know that we have had like 100 elections since that moment until now. But I don't know if you remember that Podemos made this catalog. He took the IKEA catalog, and instead of making a regular electoral program, he copied that and put them together. That's the second way of innovating. You take something that already exists and you give it a new shape, okay? It's something that already exists with a lot of fields. One example is the catalog of Podemos for the elections of 26G. Another way of innovating in this way, I mean modifying the shape, was made by the Partido Popular with this wonderful thing that they offered to us some years ago. Gratuito, no? Okay. But at the end is the same idea. You take something that already existed, you give it a new shape, and you have something completely new. You take the hymn of the Partido Popular, you put it over a bachata basis, and you have a new wonderful thing. Third way of innovating, Pokemon Go. 2 years ago, something like that, there was this new application who allowed people to look for Pokemon in the city. This way of innovation is you take a technologic development and you apply it to something that already exists. So all the innovation things that we can, all the ways of innovating are those 3. The lollipop paradigm, the Podemos catalog paradigm, and the Pokemon Go paradigm. You take 2 things that already existed and put them together. You change the aspect of something that already existed, or you apply a new technology to something new. Okay, so that's what I invite you to do. But first of all, I have 2 other advices. The first one, don't be boring. We are trying to communicate science. We are trying to transmit passion for science to everybody. So if you are boring, the passion goes. So try to be fun. It's not necessary to be funny, but you have to be at least interesting. Okay, when people listen to what you are saying, you have to be interesting. Second advice, emotion. Look for the emotion, because emotion is something that always works. And when I say emotion, I'm meaning humor, I'm meaning melancholy, I'm meaning passion, I'm meaning sadness, etc. Have you ever seen a Pixar movie? Toy Story, Ratatouille. At the end, you always, you think when you were small, they are calling to your emotion, and that works always, okay? And that's a very good advice. If you want to do something that appeals the feelings of the public, put some emotion of it. Okay, so with all those tips that we have seen, I'm going to make you a little summary of some things in science outreach, and science communication that I like very much. You are going to see that most of them appeal to the emotion, and most of them try to innovate with one of the three ways of innovation that I have shown to you. PDI Ciencia, have you heard about that? PDI is the acronym in Spanish of Personas con Discapacidad Intelectual. It's a project carried out by a man from Jaén who works with people with intellectual discapacity people, and they have made like a journal club of science with this kind of people. I'm going to play you the trailer, it's just 1 minute. It's very weird, but it's very funny. And it's another way to communicate science.
Bienvenidos a PDI Ciencia. Bienvenidos. El programa en el que la discapacidad intelectual y la ciencia se dan la mano. Aquí nos ponemos la manzana de Newton y abocado. Venga, Newton, cántate una manzanita.
Verde que te quiero, verde.
What the fuck? Okay, so these people, this group of people, are working on science subjects during several weeks or several months. They make questions, they interview people, and afterwards they make this very weird footage, but it works very well. And the people who made this program, they are lovely and they like very much what they do. In the UAM, in the accelerator of the Universidad Autónoma de Madrid, they made a escape room of science. They made that last year for the 11th February. As you know, 11th February is the day of women and girls in science. And during 1 year, they were creating the script to make this escape room. They invited some school to visit them, and apparently it worked very well. It's like the same thing of is the lollipop paradox. You take escape room, you take science, you put them together, and you have something completely new. Is some Italian in this room? Yes. This is dedicated to you. Do you know them? Okay, so I Supplenti Italiani is a boy band who try to explain the astronomy by singing songs. It's very funny. It's in Italian. I'm going to put just a bit. I'm really in love with them.
Pronto, Giulia? Oggi non vengo al compito di astronomia. Ieri non sono riuscita a studiare niente. Goffredo mi ha lasciata. Non lo so perché, ma mi ha lasciata.
Baby, non ti devi preoccupare se non hai avuto il tempo di studiare. Hai il compito in classe di astronomia, però con il cuore tu vorresti andare via. Oh baby, davvero non farne un mistero. Ti sei innamorata e ti sei dimenticata di studiare le leggi di Keplero. Tranquilla baby, ci pensiamo noi a te. La prima legge dice che l'orbita descritta da un pianeta attorno al Sole è proprio ellittica, e il Sole splende proprio in uno dei due fuochi situati sopra il piano dell'eclittica. Oh baby baby, non sospirare se ricordavi un movimento circolare, che per la Terra l'eccentricità è 0.017, è proprio piccola come te baby. Yeah. La seconda legge afferma che il raggio vettore.
It's very mamarracho, but it works very well. Okay, so you take the three laws of Kepler, you make a parody with a boy band, and they explain very well the laws of Kepler. This video has more than 1,500,000 visits. Okay, It's completely amazing. And as I have taught to you, it mixes two elements that already exist, boy band science, and it puts the emotion of mamarrachismo. And it works extremely well. We continue with this mamarracho line that I like very much, as you may see. Sassy Science. Have you ever heard about her? Sassy is a PhD student at the University of Zaragoza. She studies graphene, and she makes monologues and a drag show explaining science with this context of drag queen, etc. She also fights against diversity. She participated in the Fame Lab contest last year, and I recommend you to follow her because she's amazing. Okay, before I have asked you, where do we Spaniards like to be the most? In bars. Okay, so I have a friend in Granada called Dani Guirado. He is a genius, so he has a show called Ciencia en el Bar. So he goes to a bar, and instead of giving a talk, he makes experiments with things that we can find in a bar. So for instance, with a pickle, he makes a lamp. It was very funny. I'm going to show you the video, and afterwards I will tell you a story about that.
Ya no entra nadie más. Vamos a empezar la clase de hoy. La cosa va de todo lo que hay, cosa del día a día, life hack, abriendo las cabezas con un gol. Agotar todo el alcohol. Soléis hacer cada noche. Abrir las puertecitas y toda la
That was the song of the Gypsy of Schrödinger, who is alive and in a party at the same time. Okay, so what he does, he takes the example of the full scientists that we have always seen in movies, etc. He goes to a bar, and playing with that, he makes a lot of experiments who allow him to talk about chemistry, about physics, about a lot of things. Okay, he is very good. It's also true that he starts to drink beer when he starts the show, and when he ends, he still drinks beer. Okay. Another two examples that I like very much, Clowntifics. Those two guys are from Catalonia, and they have a show, the same style, experiments for kids, like a clown style, and it worked very well also. And in the same way, they have Circonciencia. These are two brothers from Madrid, and they have a show when they mix circus and science. And at the same time, they talk about science, physics, chemistry, etc. All these examples have the same goal. They go to places where people is not interested in science a priori, and with a show with a lot of sugar, they try to pass the message that science is funny, that science is not so complicated, and that science is important. Okay? One of the things I'm more involved is in the group Big Bang Ciencia. We are a group of 30 scientists from all the areas. We have astronomers, chemists, doctors, psychologists, archaeologists, engineers, etc. And we make a stand-up comedy in theaters, in bars, in institutes, in high school, etc. Always with this idea of showing that science is fun and is accessible, okay? 2 years ago, we had like a permanent show in Madrid and in Barcelona in 2 big theaters, Teatro Alcázar in Madrid, close to Puerta del Sol, and a Teatro in Las Ramblas, I don't remember the name, okay, but they were shows, science shows for people, regular people, in 2 big theaters in Madrid, and it worked very, very, very well. Now the group is more focused in high schools, etc., but we are still making shows wherever. Plus, a lot of things that I cannot mention here because I do not have enough time. There is a project called Ciencia en el Barrio, who tries to go to schools and high schools in poor districts of Madrid, and they make science project with them along the year. With Big Bang, we have another project which is called Ciencia en los Márgenes. We go to prisons and we make science shows there. We try to go to people who has no access to anything. The experience to go to a prison to give a talk is quite interesting, at least. There is a project I really love. They are in Castilla-La Mancha. So in this golden age of science communication that we are living in Spain now, Castilla-La Mancha is like our oasis, let's say. There are not much things because Madrid takes everything. Madrid, Valencia, and Andalusia take everything, so La Mancha keeps that in the middle, and they have not much things. So 2 years ago, there was an association called Ciencia a la Carta. What they do is they make science shows, science talks, science-related content to where they call them. So you call to Ciencia a la Carta and you tell them, okay, I'm from Socuellamos, can you please come to my village with a chemist because I want to make some experiments for the kids? And these people arrange themselves to bring that to La Mancha and to approach science to people, etc., etc., etc. And those initiatives were actions that I like very much, okay, the, outreach actions who try to approach science to people. Now I'm going to talk about some things that we do at the IAA, okay? As I have told you at the beginning of the talk, we are very lucky because the direction trusts very much Emilio, Silvia, and me, and they allow us to make what we can. So they trust very much in our criterion, mostly in the criterion of Emilio, who is the one who created this unit. So we are allowed to do very crazy, very stupid things. We are allowed to do a lot of experiments and to check how they work, okay? I'm going to show you some actions that we have performed in the last years in order to make that science arrive to everybody in Granada. So the first of all was inspired in what I have said before. If the mountain does not go to Muhammad, Muhammad has to go to the mountain. If people don't come to the institute, even though we make public talks, conferences, etc. in the institute, people did not come. So we say, okay, let's go to the city center, let's put a stand there, and let's make science talks there. Okay, so every year in Granada, at the end of April, there is a book festival, a book fair. So we talked to the mayor of the city, and we asked them the permission to put a stand of science there. So in the medium of all the book shops and all the stands with books, etc., there was a stand with science-related content. Every day there were 2 science talks, and during the morning there were activities for kids, etc. So since 5 years ago, every year in the book fair of Granada, there is this science stand, which works very well. We have a full program of activities and with science-related talks, and is a great success. So we have been able to catch people who were not interested in science a priori, who went to the science book fair, and who entered to see what we were doing. I like very much the photography of this girl. This is a girl of high capacities who goes to every single talk that we give since 5 years ago. She's our friend already, okay? And as I have told you, in the Institute, we like very much playing, we like very much experimenting, and I'm going to put you a video of a talk that we made 2 years ago. It was a talk where we talk about astrobiology. So there was a physicist, Emilio García, there was a biologist. The physicists tried to explain to everybody that it's very easy, that it's very probable to find life outside the Earth because the universe is very big, etc. And the biologists tried to explain that it was very difficult because the conditions, etc. And at the end of the talk, there were 2 aliens who arrived to the place, to the stand, and say, no tenéis ni puta idea, let us explain. Okay, so it was like a game to say that at this moment there are some projects like the SKA telescope who try to look for life outside the Earth, among others. And it happened like 3 years ago.
Un telescopio, es escala, es un desafío,
Y ahora todos juntos el estribillo. Y diréis, no lo sabemos. Y yo diré, sí, porque me he traído la versión en karaoke. Todos juntos hemos conseguido la presentación. Todos juntos dice.
Okay, it's mamaratism to the highest level. But the idea is you want to catch the attention of people, they arrive and you have them already with you. And from year to year we see that the audience in this Carpa de la Ciencia grows up and grows up and grows up. Okay? Another thing, slightly more serious, that we have done in the since last year is the project Granada, Ciudad de la Ciencia. Granada was labeled as Granada, Ciudad de la Ciencia, City of Science, last year. So the people from the 5 institutes, 5 CSIC institutes at Granada, plus the staff from the University of Granada, plus the town hall, got to an agreement. They created this table of the science, and they made a big advertisement project for all the city during 1 year. The year 2008, from September 2018 to September 2019. Okay, it was a complete success, and the new mayor, we have changed the mayor, has agreed this project, and the project is in its 2nd edition. It's a series of science activities concerning all the science institutes and all the citizens during the whole year. So there are talks in pubs, there are activities for the children. There is a school project called Misión Granatensis, in which students from all the institutes of Granada go to the 5 centers of CSIC, and they have like a mission that they have to solve, etc. And it's also an advertisement campaign in the around all the city. So, for instance, in the metro and in the public advertisement walls in the city, there were very beautiful posters with the advertising the science made by the research centers at Granada. There were also this vinyl campaign also with science phrases around all the city. In 1 grain of sand there are 2 trillion of atoms, for instance. As I have told you before, we like very much the humor, so there were also these kind of phrases. La Vía Láctea viaja 2 millones de kilómetros por hora, no le pides a tu hijo que se esté quieto porque no puede. The Milky Way travels at 2 million kilometers per hour, don't ask your son to be stopped, he cannot. Okay? And it was very successful, and all the people started to believe that Granada has something to say from a scientific point of view, which is not the case. Here in the Canary Islands, you are very lucky. I mean, for instance, last year I had the chance to go to the IAC, to the La Palma Observatory in El Roque Los Muchachos. We stopped to have lunch in a restaurant in the middle of the road, and I remember we entered, and in the wall there was a very big picture of the Gran Tecan. Okay, I think it's magnificent that the citizenship that has made on a scientific installation like the Gran Tecan. So it's more or less what we pretended with the Granada Ciudad de la Ciencia. A very good thing of this campaign is that there has been the agreement between all the centers, the university, and the town hall, which is not easy, but we are learning a lot of this experience. Apart from that, at the IAA, we have a long audiovisual tradition. I say we, I have just arrived. I'm working with them for this unity since 1 year ago, but Emilio and Silvia have been working in audiovisual since a lot of time ago. Have you ever heard this radio program called El Radioscopio? It's a radio show which is emitted at the Andalusian radio, Canal Sur, since 9 years ago, sorry. And they make radio fiction, like the War of the Worlds, etc. So they create characters, they hire actors, and they play always with this scientific content. The basis, the MacGuffin, the center of the mission is El Radioscopio, which is an apparatus that does not exist, which is called El Radioscopio, who allows you to make everything. You can shrink, you can travel in time, you can get bigger, you can read the future, etc. So it's an argumental excuse who allows you to talk about everything. This program has 3 Prismas prizes, which are the prizes for outreach and communication, the most important in Spain, and it has the prize Andalucía de Periodismo, which is extremely nice, which is important, and is not a scientific prize, so which talks about the quality of this product. We make radio, we also make cartoons. Do you remember the cartoons of Once Upon a Time that I have shown you before? Okay. 3 years ago, we made also a series of cartoons, and I'm going to show you in 3 minutes how does nucleosynthesis, stellar nucleosynthesis work with a cartoon.
Proton, neutrón y electrón y glotón, la partícula que come un montón. Se han encontrado protón y neutrón, se han abrazado con fuerza los dos y ha surgido un núcleo de deuterio y otro más pesado que han llamado helio y han invitado electrón. No está mal, no está mal, no está mal. Lo que da de comer la nucleosíntesis primordial. Quiere más. el hierro de momento, lentejas de fusión nuclear. No está mal, no está mal, no está mal. No queda de comer, la nucleosíntesis estelar. Quiere más. Se le termina de tanto brillar la gasolina y se apaga. Es la vida de una gran estrella. Brilla mucho, dura poco y es tan bella y acaba en un violento final. Mira los elementos más pesados de este cuento, que están en las ovejas, los helados, los pimientos. No está mal, no está mal, no está mal. No queda de comer la nucleosíntesis.
Stellar nucleosynthesis in 3 minutes in a very simple language that can arrive to everyone, mixing, humor, etc. 5 years ago also, Emilio had a wonderful idea. Do you know a character? Yeah, of course you should know because you have made also an excellent theater play here. Henrietta Leavitt, do you know her? Yeah? So 5 years ago it was not so popular and Emilio had a wonderful idea, was what would happen if Henrietta was alive today and she had her own YouTube channel? So they invented how would the video blog of Henrietta Leavitt would be. They hired Natalia Ruiz-Hermanovich, which is also one, in my opinion, one of the best science communicators here in Spain. She has been working here for 10 years ago, a long time ago, so probably you know her. And in a series of 12 videos, she spoke about the life of this woman and she spoke a lot of science. I'm going to, it's slightly long, I'm going to put you just 2 or 3.
Perdone, es la sordera, ya saben. Les decía que me encanta la repostería. De hecho, cada domingo preparo una tarta escuchando la música de William Herschel, un músico y astrónomo de finales del 18. ¿Sabían que a principios del siglo XX se pensaba que la galaxia era como una enorme tarta aplastada de 25.000 años luz de diámetro con el Sol en el centro? De hecho, se pensaba que contenía todo el universo. Vamos, que universo era tan solo un nombre más para toda la galaxia. Pero no todo el mundo pensaba así. A lo largo de la historia, muchos astrónomos como Herschel observaron la existencia de pequeñas nebulosas muy difusas en el cielo nocturno. Para muchos eran nubes de gas que formaban parte de la Vía Láctea. Para otros eran auténticas galaxias, tan lejanas que no se podían distinguir estrellas en ellas. Kant las llamó universos isla. Así pues, en los locos años 20, la pregunta de moda entre los astrónomos era: ¿forman parte estas nebulosas de la Vía Láctea? ¿O acaso son universos isla independientes de la Vía Láctea con sus propias estrellas y planetas? En realidad, todo era cuestión de determinar fielmente el tamaño de la Vía Láctea y compararlo con la distancia a estas misteriosas nebulosas. Para zanjar de una vez por todas esta cuestión, en 1920 se organizó un debate en toda regla entre dos pesos pesados de la astronomía. Por un lado, Harlow Shapley, del Observatorio de Monte Wilson.
El pastel es tan grande que es imposible que existan otros.
Por otro lado, Herbert Curtis, del Observatorio de Lick.
Evidentemente hay más pasteles en el universo.
Los participantes expusieron educadamente sus puntos de vista científicos ante una interesada audiencia. Fue un triunfo de la ciencia y de la argumentación. Eso sí, ambos salieron pensando que habían ganado. Pero, ¿realmente ganó alguien? Bueno, Shapley tenía razón en algo. La Vía Láctea era, efectivamente, mucho más grande. Hoy sabemos que tiene 100.000 años luz de diámetro y que el Sol se halla muy lejos de su centro, a unos 25.000 años luz. Pero en 1923, Shapley recibió la carta de otro astrónomo, Edwin Hubble, que decía lo siguiente.
Le interesará saber que he descubierto una cefeida en la nebulosa Andrómeda. Según mis cálculos, debe estar a una distancia de 1.000.000 de años luz.
1.000.000 de años luz. Según mi compañera astrónoma Cecilia Payne, al leer esta carta, Shapley exclamó:
Aquí está la carta que ha destrozado mi universo.
Y es que, a esta distancia, solo podía tratarse de otra galaxia similar a la nuestra. Otro universo e isla. Curtis tenía razón. Hoy sabemos que el universo está compuesto de infinidad de galaxias que se agrupan en cúmulos.
Okay, it was very successful, and in 12 chapters they explain a lot about the history of the calculadoras de Harvard, etc. It's amazing. I recommend you to watch it, and it worked very well. But it's not the only experience that we have with video blogs and with YouTube. 3 years ago, we discovered that in a room where nobody has access in the Institute lived an awful character called the Angry Astronomer, who is angry about how we make science communication in astronomy. He has its own video blog and is devoted to complain about how journalists communicate about astronomy. I'm going to put you a little part.
Apartado del sistema, el astrónomo más brillante y prometedor de su pueblo, con más de 100 publicaciones en el Boletín Celeste de Talamanca del Jarama y un índice H de -8, es el azote de la mala astronomía, es el astrónomo indignado.
¡Me llevan los nervios!
Hoy, qué verde era mi exoplaneta.
Queridos míos, seguro que hoy, en la sección de ciencia de vuestro periódico, si es que la tiene y sabéis leer, habéis leído que científicos de por ahí han descubierto un nuevo exoplaneta de esos. Exoplaneta, planeta fuera de nuestro sistema solar. O sea, a tomar por saco. En Mordor, vamos, hay que explicarlo todo. Y da igual que día sea hoy, porque todos los santos días están descubriendo exoplanetas de esos a cascoporro, ¿eh? Que te despiertas por la mañana y en el programa Ana Rosa anuncian que han descubierto 40. Y por la noche, en el hormiguero dan la exclusiva de que ya hay 400 más. Que vale ya de descubrir exoplanetas, ¿eh? Que ya hay más exoplanetas que followers del Justin Bieber ese, ¿eh? ¿Qué pasa, planetólogos? ¿Que no sabéis hacer otra cosa? ¡Basta ya de encontrar exoplanetas! ¡Si es que me llevan los nervios! Perdón, que me indigno y se me va el centro de masas. Seguro que en el periódico había una exuberante ilustración del susodicho exoplaneta. Algo tal que así. Un vergel verde lleno de agua cristalina flotando en el espacio exterior. Que dan ganas de coger a la mujer, a los niños, a la abuela, al perro y la pelota de Nivea e irse a hacer merienda cena a jugar al balón volea. Pero mi superior mente analítica no se queda satisfecha. ¿Son realmente así los exoplanetas? Así que me fui al artículo científico de referencia y vi que en él este exoplaneta tiene la siguiente pinta. ¿Pero qué clase de psicotrópicos han tomado el científico, el periodista y el ilustrador para sacar a partir de este fisto diagonal de 4 puntos de gráfica este vergel sideral? ¿Dónde están los ocres? ¿Dónde están los tonos verdes? ¿Dónde están los lagos? ¿Dónde están los valles? ¡Si es que me llevan los nervios! ¿Dónde están las gafas?
En realidad es muy complejo obtener una imagen de un planeta fuera de nuestro sistema solar. Tan solo existen algunos casos, y nunca una imagen que permita adivinar la mínima característica de la superficie del exoplaneta en cuestión. Los exoplanetas se detectan por los llamados métodos indirectos, bien porque producen un tránsito sobre su estrella o bien porque provocan cambios perceptibles en el movimiento de esta. Gracias al análisis y a modelos físicos, de estos datos indirectos se pueden estimar aspectos como el tamaño del planeta, su masa, su periodo orbital o su distancia a la estrella, incluso si es rocoso o gaseoso. Pero ni tan siquiera con los medios más avanzados actualmente podemos determinar su composición o la existencia de una posible atmósfera, y mucho menos imaginar su superficie o si tiene agua líquida. Cualquier ilustración de un exoplaneta es actualmente pura imaginación.
That's a very good example of how a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. We put all the sugar at the beginning, at the medium we put all the scientific information, all the message that we want to transfer, and we finish by another little of sugar, okay? This series was very successful. We made the first season 3 years ago, and last year ago we made the second and last season with 10 new chapters. We traveled to the Grand Tecan, the angry astronomer destroyed the Grand Tecan, etc. At the end, but at the end it's an argumental excuse who allows us to speak about how we talk about science, about the Spanish infrastructure in astronomy, about the precarity of the scientific careers, etc. This series is one of the most successful projects of the Institute until now, and we are very happy and very proud of it. I recommend you to watch it. But another of the products that has made us become very popular is the Astrocopla. It's in a similar way to the Italian boy band. We have made something more Spanish, but in the same sense. So we have mixed astronomy, Spanish copla, and we have created a musical way of singing called Astrocopla, okay? I have a show with my colleague Natalia Ruiz-Milanovic and myself where we sing songs about astronomy using all flamenco songs of Rocío Jurado and Lola Flores. We made it in Naucas, we make it in schools, in theaters, etc. And we were called from a TV show called Got Talent, where with a song of Rocío Jurado we explained the stellar nucleosynthesis, okay? The experience was like it was, but the good thing is that it allowed us to arrive to a wider audience, to the point that the mission of this program was in March. In June, we were contacted by a actor school here in Tenerife who asked us for the permission to sing that song in the final show of the school. And that's I'm very happy for it. I'm going to show you that.
Y forman un oxígeno que es lo más, y crean elementos más pesados, gas, hasta que tienen un núcleo de hierro y ya se para porque el hierro no se funde más, y extraña que está todo perdido de gas, y forman nebulosas planetarias, gas, y a veces explotan en supernovas, gas, y crean la materia que nos forma el gas, pues somos polvo de estrellas y nada más.
Trying to explain astrophysics in a funny way, and it arrived to a wider audience, and it was taken by a school of actors. For us, it was like the realization of all our career. We were extremely happy about that. And the last thing I come to talk to you about is the documentary El Enigma Agustina. I don't know if you have heard about that. It's a documentary that we made. Emilio and I directed that because a student of history in the Universidad Complutense de Madrid contacted us because she has found a strambotic history that I'm going to tell you now. In El Pardo, the palace where Franco used to live, they found a trunk in a room that we know that only Franco had that access to that room. The trunk was a normal trunk with Franco's possessions. There were letters, there were photographs, there were a lot of things, discos, etc. And there was the thesis of a woman called Agustina Ruiz Dupont, who would be the first woman in having a PhD in science in 1923. Up to that moment, the first woman to have a PhD in physics in Spain was supposed to be Felisa Martín Bravo. So, a part of that thesis, there were some letters of Einstein talking to Blas Cabrera about Agustina Ruiz Dupont, and there was a photograph of the Solvay conference with an unknown woman in the middle who was supposed to be Agustina. We entertained a research with Esther Vidal, and we made a movie in which we recreated the research process about Agustina Ruiz Dupont. I'm going to play you the trailer. No, there's no trailer. Okay. Okay. Just come back to the photographs. Those are photographs of Agustina with Marie Curie, Blas Cabrera, Erwin Schrödinger, the Sin Sombrero, and people from the generation of 27. You can see that Agustina resembles enormously to Natalia Ruiz. So it's a clear fake, actually. So we have made a fake documentary about a woman that never existed. But it has been very successful. In the documentary, we hired 2 actors in order to recreate the processes of investigation about this unknown woman, Agustina Ruiz Dupont. In the meanwhile, we have interviews with experts in science, in astronomy, in history of science, and we recreate a moment in the life of Agustina in which she talks about her life, etc. The goal of this movie is, with this fake character, talk about true things. So we take this false character of Agustina Ruiz to talk about the access of women to science careers in Spain during the period of the Second Republic, to talk about the science in Spain made at that period, to talk about Blas Cabrera, to talk about La Sin Sombrero, to talk about the residence of students, residence of señoritas. We take a false character to talk about things that really existed. It was very crazy. I mean, at the end, it's like the mix of everything that I have been telling you before. Copy as much as you can. Use emotion, use humor, a spoonful of sugar. All that things were together in that movie. We presented that in Granada in March 2018, and it was a complete success. It has been, this movie won the prize of the best documentary in the Spanish Bienal Internacional de Cine Científico, celebrated in Ronda in 2018. It has been selected in non-scientific cinema festivals, which we were very happy about that. And on 11th of February 2019, and this year, 11th of February 2012, universities and investigation centers of all around Spain have made projections of that movie. So it has started to become like a piece to talk about the history of science of women in Spain, always talking about a character that never existed. It has been also presented in Mexico. It has been presented in Paris, Rome, Brussels, Oxford, Mexico, Colombia, and South Africa. Okay, so it's working very well. People that we don't know, I'm sure that we have not made that, have created have put this movie in Film Affinity, in Internet Movie Database, and in Wikipedia. Teachers from a school in Galicia have created a didactic unit to talk about Agustina and to work the contents of this movie in class. So at the end, with this movie, we have reached this goal that we have of reaching to a wider audience by using all the things that I have been talking to you. And another idea I have not talked to you before is, if you have a good idea, try to squeeze it as much as possible. So from this movie, we have created a show that we make in theaters, in which we mix radio, real theater, and cinema. We call it the three formato. At the end, we tell the same history with 3 different formats at the same time in a show of 1 hour and a half. And it's working very well. It has worked so well that we won the Prisma's Prize of Best Singular Project last year in La Coruña. So that said, that's all that I have to say, and I'm going to give you some take-home messages. First of all, even though it's difficult, we have to try to arrive to a wider audience, to arrive to an audience as wide as possible. Copy and paste as much as you can, and always citate your sources, but try to do it because it works very well, I can tell you. Don't forget the Mary Poppins parody. Just a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. And at the end, the two most important things in outreach and communication: do not be boring and try to emotionate. And why? Why should we make all this? I will take a phrase of Simon Meaton in 2001. The social contract is not complete until the results are communicated. We all work in public research institutes. We are paid with everybody's money, so we have the duty of explaining them what we are making with their money. Thank you for your attention. It's extremely complicated. Last SEA meeting in Salamanca 2 years ago, I remember we were discussing that with Carmen del Puerto. You have the luck, I repeat you have the lucky of having one wonderful unit of communication here at the IAC with wonderful people, and Carmen del Puerto is a boss at national level. So I was talking to her about that, and she told me that the ideal thing would be to have one person hired per social network. One person for Instagram, one person for Twitter, one person for Facebook, one person for YouTube. The ideal would be that the content in every social network is different, because how we work, for instance, at the IAEA, we are 3 people and we manage the social networks de esa manera, a little como nos sale de ahí. But it's not the proper way to do it. So the ideal would be that one person creates a kind of content in Instagram because the audience of Instagram are young people, etc. That's very difficult. You know that there is not much money for science communication, so at the end we do like we can. In your case, I would trust in your unit of scientific communication. I would try to help them. For instance, I can send you this video if you want to share it on our social networks, please do it. But it's true that social networks now are crucial, because if you are not in the social networks, you do not exist. But it's a very complex question. Mm-hmm. I mean, the thing is that things should be done by professionals. I'm a very bad social network user. I have a Twitter. I retweet a lot of science news, but from time to time I retweet the black of the WhatsApp, you know. So, I'm not very good. My advice is, when we scientists do things, we always think that we can do everything. For instance, have you seen the logos of a lot of Congress made by the astronomers? How things should be. If you have if you are going to organize a workshop or a meeting or an instrument, you should hire a graphic designer in order to make your logo, not call your cuñado because he knows a little bit of Photoshop and he can make you something very apañado. That does not work. With the social networks, it should be the same thing. At the end, the social networks, what we say is, I have a PhD student here, he's quite nice, I'm going to tell him to keep my social networks. It doesn't work. I mean, it should be done by professionals. Afterwards, if there is no money, we have to think about that. Yeah. 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 Yeah, 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 yeah. Totally right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. It works, but yeah. Yes, but if we want the things to last in the time, they have to be paid. I mean, you can do it with passion because you like and you have talent for making videos for YouTube during 3 years, but after 3 years, the amount of work for free is too big. So I really support that outreach and communication are properly paid. Giving talks is paid, etc. Because it's a big effort. Yes, so most of the projects that I have showed you that we have made at the IAA, we get funding from the Fundación Española para la Ciencia y la Tecnología. It's a foundation who depends on the Science and Innovation Ministry. Last year was Science, Innovation and Universities. 2 years ago was Economy, etc. But that ministry has a funding agency who funds this kind of activities. They have an open call every year, and you have to ask them a project. You have to explain what you want to do, how much money you need, and how you are going to spend it. It's not easy because they are never going to fund all your activity. They just will pay you up to 60%. You have to provide 40% from other sources. How do we solve that? Because our center does not give us money for that. But since we are workers for the IAA, we count our working money or working time as in-kind contribution. Okay, that's the trick. Now I just work in science communication, so for me it's easier. But for you, as scientists, it's much more difficult because you are supposed to spend the full 100% of your time in making science. That's another very big problem. I mean, if you have made some communication, some outreach, you know that it takes a lot of time and it's not recognized in the CV, as you were telling. And if you spend a lot of time in making outreach, you do not publish, so you cannot be competitive when you want to have a fixed position, etc. So, coming back to the money, the FECIT is the biggest funding agency up to now. There are also the European projects. 2 years ago I was working for the project EST. Here, project manager is here, and we had some money from the European Union. When they asked for the project, they asked for some money for budget. That's perfect, because they have already foreseen that they are going to need to communicate the project, to create awareness about the project to the general audience, and that they need money for that. So they created a communication plan before asking for the money, and they have a huge, and a certain amount of money to make so. Otherwise, it's difficult. And if you are an outsider, it's completely difficult. Now, for instance, we are going to apply for a kind of helps called Becas Leonardo from the BBVA. So they help researchers and science communicators at the midterm of their careers in order to create a project. So I encourage you to ask for that call. Not this call, because I'm going to ask money in this call, but for the next year it will be okay. Yes. Now, for instance, I'm for free. At the end, the thing is that it's some. Yes. 1 year, something like that. But for instance, the thing is that I say that I'm working in outreach and communication. Before, when I was working for the EST, I was working on science and communication for the EST. At that moment, we got the funding for making El Enigma Agustina. I could not talk my boss. No, I'm not going to come today because I have to go to make a movie. How did they make that? Afternoons, Saturdays, Sundays, and my holidays. That year, I had no holidays because I was recording El Enigma Agustina, you know? So at the end, you have a boss who pay you. We all, hopefully, have that. If you want to make something extraordinary, what I mean is out of the regular things, you have to do it in your own time. And that's very hard. Or for instance, I'm sure that it has happened to you. Come to the institute of my kid and give me a new talk, different from the one you gave the last year, of 1 hour about what you are doing. How much do you pay? Nothing. Okay, it's a lot of effort for a talk of making a talk of 1 hour. People think that's easy, and that's not the case. So at the end, you spend a lot of your personal time. I guess that you all are in the same situation, I guess. Did you know all the things that I have presented here? Did you all know Naucas, for instance? Okay, Naucas is very popular, but when I was making science, I did not know Naucas. Was Natalia, I was working with Natalia, he came to me one day, he taught me about Naucas, which is probably the most important event in Spain about that. So. Other things? Yeah?